Let's see the red.
All right, transcription has started. So it is 6:05, so we will formally call the Westminster Inclusivity Board meeting for January 11th to order. Welcome all. Let it be known that we have a quorum, so it's good to see you all. One of the things that we had talked about, just to kind of give you an update, I know we've been doing a lot of virtual. I think there's just, it seems like a lot of people have had to deal with some illness and things like that. So the hope would be for our February meeting to maybe try to do a hybrid approach. And then of course you could do whatever you feel comfortable with. But that being said, we felt like making the decision to be virtual this time, just, you know, seems like there's just a lot of stuff going around. Felt just okay to maybe do it from our homes or the comfort of wherever you are sitting right now. And we will intend to hopefully come back so that we can actually do some, you know, like fun team builders again and get to know yous and all of that good stuff. We'll talk a little bit about that in context to the retreat that we'll bring up again. And we can give a little bit more background around that. So welcome all. I think earlier this week, our friend Piper sent out a presentation around our safe spaces to really like kind of front load the conversation. So I want to kind of turn it over to Piper to talk about any highlights, open it up for any discussion. I know that I don't know how many people got a chance to view the presentation. But Piper, I just really want to applaud you for all of the work that you've done. All of the I know you were just kind of looking at a lot of different perspectives, and I want to just get this going. We identify this as sort of our key presentation, just because, as we mentioned last meeting, this has been a work in the long time coming. So Piper, I'll let you kind of facilitate and sort of just kind of give us an overview and talk through whatever you feel you would want to. First of all, and I guess really quickly before I do that, how many of you did get a chance to review the presentation? Yeah, and I get it if some people didn't get a chance to. All right. So, oh, go ahead, Piper.
Run it then. I mean, it's only about 5 minutes long.
Yeah, I would say Piper, if is there a way that maybe Kate or Cody, could we share the screen?
Do that? Please.
Yeah.
Piper, I just made you a presenter, so I think that should give you control. Let us know. If not, I can pull it up and share my screen.
Yeah, that might be easier, Cody, if you feel comfortable with that.
1 second.
Okay. So as we get the presentation up, Piper, is there any kind of framing that you want to maybe just kind of remind us of or talk a little bit through?
Well, this presentation has had several different iterations, but this one is actually leans into using inclusive journeys to sort of fill in that rating and training for creating safer spaces with businesses in the city. So yeah, hopefully we're almost there.
Yes.
I'm very sorry. It's just taking me a second to find it. Here we go.
That is okay.
It's loading, so we're getting there. Baby steps.
Thank you. See, so far, Steve, we're going easy on the notes. Just, so I'm just saying.
So just for clarification, Cody, oops, am I muted? No, I'm not. We do record and there's a transcription of this meeting. These are just notes as opposed to minutes. correct?
We actually, they should be minutes so the action items can come there. I think our transcription doesn't work as well as one might hope. Piper, I can't open it.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure
Sorry.
why that is. No, it's okay.
It wants me to sign in, and maybe my OneDrive is keeping me from signing into the OneDrive link, perhaps.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that might be it. All right. Hold on.
Probably city firewalls, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's giving me the same alert actually. Please, let's not have this.
Maybe for a second, when Piper's getting that ready, I can let you all know we have a new staff person who's joining us. He is not a new staff person, but he is new to our board. Kate has taken another position, still in the CMO team in the clerk's office, but in her new role, she doesn't have capacity to be part of our lovely group. So we have invited Jake Walls, who you may all know from Rec Center and other roles at the city. He's pretty fantastic. He helped with the drive-through. What was it, Mayor Pro Tem or Jake? You can speak up, the drive-through when we gave the boxes to families in need during COVID. That weekly drive-through, Jake led the charge on that and kept all the logistics running, all the volunteers and everything. So Jake's pretty good at keeping us where we need to be and taking care of all of our logistic needs. So he has elected to join this group and help do fill Kate's big shoes. So this will be Kate's last meeting, and you'll start to see emails from Jake. So just wanted to give you all heads up in case you were confused.
Awesome. Well, Jake, welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you, and I'm excited to meet everybody.
And Kate, thank you for all of your work too. Thank you for keeping us all kind of glued together with virtual. You kind of led the virtual, structures for us, which is great. So thanks for always being there and always supporting the system. Okay. All right. Any luck on the presentation?
I can't get it to work from my end either. I'm getting the same error that Cody's getting.
Okay.
So, crap.
Please note in the
minutes.
Can we make it a PDF?
Yeah.
Write that down. Spelling.
Yeah. Okay. No worries. What we could do is maybe we can move forward a little bit, and if we need to, I guess what we could do, Piper, is maybe just roll up the actual PowerPoint or the Google presentation that you did, if we can access that, not the recorded version, but maybe we could just talk through that a little bit. But we'll try to get
pull up the PowerPoint either. It won't let me pull up anything. There seems to be a serious disconnect between Teams and PowerPoint, which is odd because they both come from the same company. But yeah, I'm getting the same error Cody is. So
okay. Well, what we could do, we'll move forward a little bit, and then if nothing else, maybe we can frame some of the key points, and if we need to maybe try to get a different format out to all of our IB members just so they can watch it. Maybe we could, I don't know, save it. I think someone just said save it as a PDF, Miguel. Yeah, that could be once we get access to it, we could maybe look at that. Okay. Yeah, Miguel. The one thing that Piper did was recorded some of the narration to give context behind the slides, and I think that's helpful too. But yeah, because I was able to access here. So, okay, no worries. Thank you. We'll try to check back and come back and see where we are. So let's move into our next item, old business. It's reviewing and approving the previous meeting minutes that Piper graciously did in Seth's absence for our December meeting. So do we have a motion to accept those minutes as written?
So moved.
Okay, I see Doug. So moved. Thank you. So motioned. Is there a second?
Second. Oh, wait, Rich second. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So it's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Okay. Is there anyone opposed? And does anyone choose to abstain? Okay. All right, so moved. Thank you very much. Moving on to Mayor Pro Tem Dave DeMott with City Council report. Mr. DeMott.
Hey, everybody. I don't have super lot because we're just in the new year and we were off for a handful of weeks. So a couple things that I will share with you guys. This last week, we had boards and commissions interviews on this past Saturday. Had a handful of open positions, mostly in the historical landmark board, one in the personnel board. Trying to remember what the other one was. Human services. We had one opening in human services. So you should see selections with that. I don't know if it'll be the next meeting or not, but pretty soon to see who we selected. And I would share with you guys, just because, you know, in the work that you guys do, we had a question from a resident about why we do the meetings, the interviews in executive session. So I asked for a conversation with my colleagues about changing that. That's, I believe, through ordinance in our city. I could see it kind of both ways, but I think it's worth a discussion since somebody asked. Obviously, you all have been through that process and understand, you know, this is my own position. I could see the public benefiting from it, but I also see sometimes that candid conversation being allowed, like if you want to share something about like your professional life or an experience, but you don't want that on a public record. So, I mean, we could see it both ways, but ultimately it sounds like we'll probably have a conversation about it. I know some other cities I looked into, like Thornton, for example, used to do it similar to how we do, and now they do it all open. So going to have a conversation about that. The other thing that I wanted to share that we did that's kind of big is on Monday, we made some changes with the way that parking enforcement happens. And so before that was all the police department. Now that's going to be a different department. And they are going to kind of partner with the folks that already do it for like the downtown, the TOD, and it ultimately will hopefully enable us to get better about enforcing parking where we need to and giving better customer service, as well as taking some of that off of the police department. Because ultimately, you know, I think that having them do the specific things that we want police to do is kind of a narrative. If you think about the navigators with mental health and different things like that, you know, let's allow them to be focused, especially, you know, with, you know, just everything that's kind of changed in that demographic, as well as it being more difficult to get folks doing that job. So the last thing, and this is also on the police note, and I don't know if maybe Miguel Note has heard this or not, but I thought it was worth sharing with you guys that they have closed the process for the chief, and we got some feedback. I want to say it was in the mid to high 30s that they got applicants for that. So we got a good pool of applicants from across the country. It sounds like, from what I understand, it's a good, you know, good deep pool of candidates. So I believe next step is they'll do some virtual interviews, and then past that, then they would do some in-person interviews. So we still have some months ahead of us, you know, but that's a big move forward. As you know, that was put as a priority next to getting a city manager in place. End of this month, City Council is going to do kind of our yearly touch base on our strat plan. Last year after the election, you know that we did kind of the bigger one. I don't expect a ton of changes, but it's always good to have that yearly touch base and see if there's anything that's shifted or anything that we think we should add or remove from those priorities. So city council's been going through, talking to our facilitator, and then the last Monday of the month we will be meeting to, that night will be specifically just for that conversation with our facilitator. Aside from that, I don't have a ton else. Actually, one other thing is we are also this last week, Kip from our community outreach department, he came and talked to us about the outreach program for this next year. As you know, we did a handful of in-person town halls. So we talked about, do we want to continue those? It sounded like the majority did want to continue those. We talked about some other ideas, like maybe bringing back telephone town halls, or maybe doing, some online kind of forum question and answers. But ultimately, in the effort to be as accessible as possible and talk to as many different people in the city as possible, and make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to be able to talk to their elected representatives if they so choose. So that's about it. Hopefully, you all had a good holiday. We were off for a handful of weeks, which was nice, but we're back at it.
Great. Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem. Is there any question or thought or conversation point for Mr. Demont?
Justin,
Oh, go ahead, Steve.
quick question. Dave,
Sure.
you mentioned that the parking enforcement was moved from the police to another department. Which department is that?
It's community development. Is that right, Cody?
Community development. Okay, great.
And we actually have, and I'm blanking on his name. A couple of years ago, we hired somebody we kind of boosted him from the city of Denver that specifically is an expert around parking, and he heads up that whole division.
Yeah, Waddy Burgos.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for the question, Steve. Anyone else have a question or a comment regarding Mayor Pro Tem's discussion? Okay. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Appreciate you. I imagine that, if you have questions about the strategic planning process, that's all open record as far as what's out there so far, and it's probably a good idea. I think what you've said in the past, Dave, is, look at what is in the city. Don't make assumptions that, because there's so much going on and there's a lot of good things happening, but there are a lot of things that maybe we could look at strategically. Okay, well, this is a strategic plan point. How can the Inclusivity Board really support this from our perspective, right? So I just think it's good to be well-rounded and knowledgeable in that plan.
Yeah, and just so you know, that is one of the things that I intend on bringing up, is that idea that I've been talking about probably for the last 18 months or so, is how we incorporate the boards in where it makes sense. Some of them are, more quasi-judicial, like the special permits and licensing. So them and like planning, their charges are a lot more specific, and what they do is just kind of lines up with any strategic plan, because it's an operational thing that we need. But with the other groups, I think I'm a very big advocate of seeing how we can plug you into the strategic plan, because ultimately, would you look at our plan and say, here's an area where we could plug in? Or how could the traverse happen where city council looks at, here's some things we want to do. This makes sense for us to task Inclusivity or Environmental Advisory Board. So that is something I want to look at. But to answer your question about the strategic plan, it's on the website. It's referred back to in just about anything that we do. Because some of the things that they, like, for example, if they're changing a land use, they'll always refer back to our strategic plan and our mission and how it relates to it. So I would encourage anybody that is on our boards and commissions and the city in general, to look that up. I'm sure, Cody, maybe you could distribute a copy of that to the board, because it is really important for you guys to understand. And if there are things, ultimately, not everybody likes everything the same, and the 7 of us are no different. So there are things on there that maybe some people didn't like, but the majority said these are things we're doing, or maybe there are things that some people who were didn't get 4 votes wanted on that. So it's not necessarily all inclusive of the things that each of us think. but it is what guides the staff and the work that they do day to day.
Yeah,
And just
thank
so
you,
you know,
Ellen. Oh, go ahead.
this the status update was posted with tonight's agenda. So the agenda, the KPIs document was posted tonight with the agenda for the 23rd. So, and then
Great.
again, next week it will be for the 30th with even more information, but I will send around that document, or I'll
That'd
send
be
the page so you can look at that.
Thank you. Alan, I see your hand.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, I know you have, or you for this year, will you also have your weekly meet and greets?
Oh, for me, yep. Thanks for bringing that up, Alan. I will be having the one that I have hosted since before I was elected and run. And this year we're going to continue to do it on the third Tuesday. So every third Tuesday through the month of November, December, we take off. You can come and hang out at Cocopelli with me. The mayor usually always shows up. Very rarely does she not show up to it, since even before she was the mayor again. Every once in a while, we'll get other elected officials. It's an open invite to anybody who wants to come. So this year we set a time of 6:30 to 8:30. So there's no defined start time. So if you can't make it till 7:30, or if you can't make it till 8 o'clock and you want to drop by and have a beer with me, I'll be there. So and we're starting that next week. Next Tuesday, I'll be the first one of the year.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, Mr. DeMott. We appreciate you. I know Piper's having some technical difficulties, so what we will do is we will table that presentation, and Piper, you and I can circle around about how we can maybe get that information out to the board, and we'll devise next steps together. So, looking at new business, we just wanted to kind of reframe. I don't know, is Michelle here right now around?
I am. I'm just having trouble with my camera.
Oh, okay.
So.
Hi, Michelle. Good to see you. We wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about, well, see you as in hear you, I guess, is what, that's what I meant to say. Talking about the continuation of the essentials tax. We obviously had a great presentation, and Michelle, thank you so much for arranging that, from one of our Aurora City colleagues. And, Dave, this might also pertain to you a little bit. I know that put you in contact with sort of that process, and I know you were going to explore some things, but I also know you haven't really done much, as far as city business in the past few weeks because of holiday and everything. So, and Michelle, you can take over. But would that be something? Dave, are you thinking about maybe moving that information forward to City Council within a frame of time?
I did ask them about, I don't know, want to say ask, because they didn't have a specific ask, but I let them know that the board is looking at that and has interest in it. I don't know. I think probably before we have any serious discussion about it, if that's what you guys are asking, we probably would look to staff to look a little deeper into what the impact was. And I was looking back at the minutes and reminded of my questions to the Aurora City Council member, and a lot of it, if you think about what I was really getting at, is that the impact. So for and how they're funded, and it sounded like they're a lot like us in the fact that they're heavily funded by sales tax, because that's the number one thing that we're funded by. But their sales tax is a bit lower. So I don't think you could, even though the size of their city is bigger, I'm not sure what the actual financial impact would be. So I would like to get some more information around it so that I understand it. But it is something I've at least brought up to the council, and they know that you guys are talking about it.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. I'll let you kind of facilitate the conversation as you see fit. So go ahead.
Sure. Well, and I don't know if there's much of a conversation to be had. I think really the reason why I wanted to put it on the agenda for tonight is simply to see if the rest of the board would be interested in sort of formally asking Mayor Pro Tem to ask council, or to talk to council about having staff officially look into the impacts of the potential impacts of removing tax on certain items. So I just wanted to sort of see what folks think about doing that.
Okay, so you're suggesting make a motion to at least move that request formally by this board forward to Mayor Pro
Yeah,
Tem?
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, unless there are folks on the board that think that there's a step that we might be missing before we actually make that request. But I don't think that there is, but I just wanted to
Well,
make sure.
yeah, we can, I mean, if you want to make a motion and then we can, if someone wants to second it, then we can discuss if that's what we want to do.
Sure, I'll do that. So I move that the board recommend to council to direct staff to investigate the impacts of removing certain items from how do I want to say this? Make certain items exempt from city sales tax, I guess, that's a very, very long motion. I apologize.
Do we need to specify what the items are? So they know
Yeah,
it's not cars or something.
probably. Yeah, no, exactly. So, I mean, in my mind, the exempt items would be diapers, both child and adult, as well as any menstrual hygiene products to start. And then we'll see how things look.
Okay. Thank you for that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. So move to a motion in a second. So it is now open for discussion. Does anyone have any thoughts or ideas? Again, just to kind of get to the spirit, I guess, of this motion is that we are making a formal request for City Council to have staff explore the possibilities in regards to making feminine hygiene products, diapers, those types of things. Am I correct with that, Michelle? Exempt
Yes.
from city tax. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So open for discussion. Okay. Did someone pop in there? I didn't want to cut anyone off.
Alan here. I just wanted to
Oh.
make sure that when we talk about feminine hygiene products, that we're talking very specifically about those things such as tampons and pads. There may be other feminine hygiene products that I don't know that.
Correct. There are things like menstrual cups, which are a
Mhm.
higher ticket item but are reusable. Yeah, so that could be included in there as well.
Okay. I see Donna's hand, and then Megan, please.
Yes, I'm wondering if it's appropriate to include in that motion some time frame. I don't know. I mean, everyone they're so busy, all staff everywhere. If it would be helpful if we added something that, and do we want to do a time certain, or do we want to say it as soon as reasonably possible, or something like that, just so that it doesn't just drag on and on. But I also don't want to put pressure on anybody. So I don't know whether Mayor Pro Tem can answer that, or maybe even Cody can answer that for us.
I mean, if you are asking me to do it, I can, if the board agrees and gives direction, I could ask as soon as my next meeting whether or not council wants to give direction to staff. And then from there, I guess the more the part that I can't tell you, and I doubt Cody can either, is when then it would actually come forward, because likely if council majority gave direction, there would also be some like I was talking earlier, there would probably be some parameters around what we would want to hear in an actual conversation for us to make a decision if there was a desire to look at it. So I could get it to them relatively soon if that's what you guys desire. And then as far as like what kind of conversation might come out of that, I'm not sure, but typically when one of us brings something up like that, It's pretty easy to find out if 4 people want staff to move forward, or even if they need a little bit more information before we do anything really formal. But that could happen before your next meeting, if that's what you guys want.
If that's the appropriate, I just wanted to know that
Yep.
there at least was some direction about how soon it might happen or the process.
Yeah, Cody, anything you'd add to that?
I think that's probably the best course of action. That way there's not too much time or energy spent by this board or staff before we get some sense of it from council. So Mayor Pro Tem, I'll put a note in for the 23rd to keep that on your radar.
Yep, I appreciate it. I sometimes need reminding.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Donna, for that question. Megan, please.
Yeah, I would just like to strongly suggest, considering we are the inclusivity board, that we don't use the term feminine hygiene products, that we use either menstrual hygiene products or period products to be inclusive of our non-binary and trans brothers and sisters. So
Thank you for that recommendation, and I absolutely agree. And I will definitely own. I think I had heard that before. So yes, I would agree with that. I think we need to be very inclusive in our language, because it's, it's far more than a simple process of biology. Let's just say that. So thank you, especially a binary biology that arguably doesn't really exist, but whatever. So thank you. I appreciate that, Megan. Other points, questions, questions? Okay, hearing no other points of conversation, we have a motion and a second. So all in favor of making the request to move forward to bring this request to City Council? Is there anyone that is opposed? Okay. Does anyone abstain? All right, so moved. So Mayor Pro Tem DeMott, we would appreciate you bringing that request forward to City Council, and then we will discuss next steps from that response.
Yep, I will do that. And next meeting, I'll have feedback for you as far as how that conversation goes.
Thank you. All right, moving on to our next item, bylaws update. Donna, please.
Sure, I'm trying not to. Yes, Justin, because I did not get into the very first part of the meeting. Did you bring up anything about this prior to now?
No, Donna, I've not talked about it. So, yeah. Okay.
Following a meeting on late Friday afternoon, in which not everyone on the task force for bylaws revision was able to attend, we will be meeting. I'm assuming that's still in place following our meeting tonight. Am I correct with that, Justin?
Yes, that is correct. Okay. We were just trying to find some common meeting time so that we could move forward with that work. So if those of you on that subcommittee could stay a few minutes after this formal meeting so we could figure out some times, that would be great.
That's the plan, and we will assess the bylaws. They have not been looked at for at least 2 or 3 years, and it's time, and I'm sure there will be some changes that will be forthcoming that will be needed.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, going on to our next item, summer retreat. So what we've done in the past, especially pre-pandemic, we were able to take maybe a half day, just a chunk of time together as a board and really talk through our strategies, talk through our strategic plan, get to know each other on a little bit of a different personal basis, because it allowed us to build some trust. It allowed us to build some working relationships earlier on, we did these retreats and they were facilitated by external agencies and professionals. We have done that a little bit more in-house. I believe Jason ran our last facilitation, and I believe that was virtual, if I'm not mistaken. And I still thought that he did an excellent job. And we now are presented with the opportunity to maybe think, and it's not anything we have to decide right now, but there is some planning. There would be some, finding common time for all of us. And with everyone being busy, we know that that's hard. But we would want to maybe start thinking about a summer retreat date so that we could then gather together in whatever capacity we're able to at that time and really just hammer out some work and great thinking and some bonding as a board. So I don't know if there's any real motion, but I would definitely be open up for discussion around anyone who's felt that that has been valuable in the past or anyone who doesn't feel that that's been valuable. Nothing is certainly said, but want to maybe hear your perspectives as we start exploring that. Donna, please.
Yes, as someone who's had the opportunity to participate in these retreats, I think they are really, really valuable for us, for team building and for many reasons. So I am pleased to hear that we will be able to at least consider doing it again. And I'm excited about the possibilities that will come out of it because it's always been a positive, successful venture as far as I'm concerned. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you, Donna. Other thoughts?
Justin, I would just let you all know or remind you all that Jason's no longer with the city. So
Right.
if you want to have a facilitator, we might need to talk about that.
Yeah. And we have found that like the facilitation from at least outside of us, it helps us to kind of, regardless of who that might be, whether it's a city person, or personnel, it's still helpful for us because then we can all really focus on the bonding and the work together. I know that, early on we had some frustrations just because we were trying to do so much and laying the foundations of our strategic plans and everything, but still the right work, I think, in some ways. Rich, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Cody's right on. Yeah, one of Jason's talents was facilitation. He was a marvelous facilitator. But I think one thing we want to think about is really identify some directions we think we need to go. What kinds of things do we need to set some goals on? I'm being a little vague. I'm sorry. But really specify the areas that we want to address, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I would agree, Rich. And I think, possibly the next meeting, if we all decide that this might be a good idea, and I can collect your feedback via email as well if you wanted to, share that. We could maybe we've done a task force in the past that's just kind of helped kind of frame the overview of what the day might look like, work with trying to find a facilitator and so on. So yeah, that would be, and we could also then talk about specifically what value we could add to that day. So, no. Donna, I see your hand, and then Doug.
Yes, I was just going to say, Justin, do you want a motion to that effect?
I don't think we need a motion right now. Let's just kind of, because that's more of an internal process, let's just explore it. And then if we want to move forward with the task force, I think that would be the time for a motion. So
I agree with Rich completely. I think we'll piggyback on what he said. I think it's really important that we set some parameters around what we're trying to accomplish.
Yep, understood. Doug, please.
I'm just trying to remember, do we have a budget for such things to bring in somebody external? I don't remember what figures were put in front of us and how that compares to what somebody external would charge.
You all have some budget. It's not significant. and I think the intention is more for projects more than facilitators and getting the word out about inclusivity. But I think you have $6,000 a year. Just being mindful that many other boards don't have a budget, so how we use ours should be community focused. But and then as long as I'm speaking, this is of course an opportunity to talk about what Mayor Pro Tem has been talking about for 18 plus months now, about how your work aligns with the strategic plan. So we'd want to dig into that as part of that conversation.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much for that discussion. And moving on to our next item topic, we have task force discussion. Alan, I know you brought this to the agenda. And I just want to kind of hear, we talked about maybe looking at a task force. So do you just want to kind of frame the overview, and then we can talk about whether we need to make a motion and then discuss?
All right, thank you. So, and this started about 5 months, I think 5 months ago. And then we had an excellent presentation to give an update of what the city had been doing regarding homelessness in our city by Kate Scarbeck. So I'm still very much in favor of, just because of the work that my volunteer work out there with the people who are out on the street. So something, we can call it a task force, we can call it a study group, a working group. But it's something that, I want everyone to know that while there are, and what you did hear from Kate, and perhaps even from Mayor Pro Tem back then, was that there are services available, but the prevailing belief, I think, among council and some staff is that the fact that we have services offered, and if they're refused, and this is what I have heard from people, if someone refuses, then that's on the homeless individual if they don't accept. And these are very extremely damaged human beings that are out there. There's mental illness, there's depression, there's drug and alcohol abuse, a lot of self-medication going on out there. And even though there are services, I think the idea that because they're there, it's an unacceptable and ill-judged mindset that we have. Some of the homelessness is sudden because of economics. It could be a divorce. It could be you lost your home, you lost your job. It's myriad things that are out there. And I don't think we want to frame this as it's a homeless person. It's a homeless group of people. I am really looking at, I encounter people who are schizophrenic and have a schizophrenic episode sometimes when I'm there. I am somebody else completely different to them. So we really aren't reaching all the people that we need to do in the most effective way. And what I've realized is that even though that some of these people are tough, hard as nails, many are chronically homeless, a lot of people just are fearful. They don't know how to try to re-enter the society that we are in, that we know, and make our way through. It's just not the case. So I think it's imperative that we have a group, and I'm not saying that this inclusivity group should be the one to do this. I'm saying that we should make a recommendation to City Council that we establish a task force that includes all members of the community, and the members that have, from what I understand, have not ever been included are the homeless themselves. And you know, it's I can't remember. It was perhaps Golda Meir or one of the Israeli generals once said, if you want to talk peace, you don't talk peace with your friends, you talk peace with your enemies. So, and I'm not equating them as being enemies. I'm just saying that we need to include homeless, everyone in the community. It's imperative. So I think there are workable solutions. We have safe outdoor spaces, transitional housing, full wraparound services is what I'm looking for. And Westminster just does not have this. And I think therefore as a group, my motion would be that we would ask the board, this inclusivity board, to recommend to the city that such a task force or working group on the homeless be formed.
Okay, thank you, Alan. I see Piper's hand.
Hi, Alan. I appreciate your passion about this project. And I am also moved by the situation and am working through another organization county wise. What would you want this task force to do? We'd sit down with homeless, the unhoused in our area and find out what they need, because if they're afraid, and unfortunately, and I know the kind of people you're talking about. I go and talk to homeless people, probably not as often as you do, but I do, and was homeless for a long time. What do you can you bring them to the table, and what do you expect us to help them with? Basically, what are we doing with this task force?
So the idea is, and sometimes it's difficult to get currently homeless people. You know, I use the term.
Uh-oh.
Alan, I think you are muted.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought I
It's okay.
unmuted myself. I was talking to myself, I guess. The idea that because people have been hurt, because people, they do not trust government, they do not trust a lot of the services for whatever experiences. We have many people who have been in jail for a long time, in prison for a long time, and once they're out, the services just aren't there. We think they are there, but they aren't. And people just devolve into a different lifestyle, and it's often includes drugs and alcohol. It's self-medication, let's just say. So there's this mistrust of, and trust takes a long time to build. Just in Westminster, I've been doing this for 2.5 years, just trying to build up enough trust. So my idea, again, with a task force would be to really look at all the situations. What are the available options? As I said, there are things called the safe outdoor spaces that St. Francis Center runs. There are other cities much larger than ours that have had very successful programs where we have complete wraparound services where people can be in one place. And we're not saying you get 3 months to do this and that's all we're going to do for you. Some people may do it in 3 or 6 months. Some people are going to need 2-3 years for this. That's the idea. What a task force would be is to discover what we are not doing, what we could be doing, and what we should be doing, and how we can do it.
I thank you. And so kind of framing that, I would think that before I would feel comfortable with maybe carrying a motion forward to this group in regards to a task force, which we really haven't defined. We really haven't asked specifically what it is that we would like the city to support in. What are we looking for? Like if, my wonder would be then if we don't have a motion to create a small subcommittee to be able to draft out a recommendation that then they could present to this board so that then we could move forward with a formal proposal if that is the choice of this board. Right now, if we were to, ask for a task force, I think city council may have a lot of questions. And I think you bring up great points, Alan. I do feel like if we're going to make a motion to do that or a recommendation, that we would want to be really clear, I think, to Piper's earlier point about what it is that we're asking truly. A task force that's comprised of people who've experienced displacement, a task force that's comprised of people, or maybe thinking about outreach, opportunities that even this board could help with. I think there could be a lot of possibility there. I just kind of wonder if maybe that is our immediate next step, so that then we can frame exactly what it is that we would all feel comfortable making a motion on. I don't know. Go ahead, please.
I had sent everybody back, I guess that was our August one, a suggested design where we have a facilitator would be assigned to explain the concept to the working group structure and the meetings to maximize our efficiency and productivity. And task force members will develop the actual plan of action with the decisions that are based on the members' input. The force itself or the group would develop actionable items for the mayor and city council to consider. It would convene public meetings, including, we want resident input. North Glen did a task force. We don't have to reinvent this because North Glen did that. They had their own goals where they identified the services that the city could provide and in partnership with other service providers. We have all that. So maybe am I just missing what you're asking me? I'm not saying the Inclusivity Board should form the task force. I'm saying we make a recommendation to the city that such a force or such a study group be convened to do this, to look into this and report back to the city.
Based on your previous proposal. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That was the clarity that is helpful. Now, Michelle and then Piper, please.
Yeah, actually, Alan, would it be possible to maybe have somebody present to our board from you said North Glen, right? Sorry. Yeah.
I did.
Have somebody from North Glen, talk to us about the task force or the things that they did, just so that we have a broader understanding of what goes into either formulating a task force or creating sort of a, I apologize, I just had a little distraction behind me. Or just basically giving them sort of their marching orders, if you will. Does that make sense? I mean, I just basically I don't know what would go into formulating a task force. So me as an Inclusivity Board member, I'm not quite sure I feel confident in being able to sort of vote on anything. If that makes sense?
What you're saying does make sense. And I'm thinking what I'm saying makes sense. And the city did do, that was the whole purpose when we brought Kate in 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I think, when she talked about, we had all the information. And I think somebody had mentioned, Cody, did you mention that there had been such a study that was done?
Rich had mentioned we did a housing study a couple years ago, and we're actually about to work on another housing assessment. Economic development's taking that, and imagine that that'll be a community and engagement and a number of things that are part of that. And things have been added to that, tiny houses and other options. So they need to do the assessment before they can to make any recommendations or create a plan, but they're in the beginning states of that, the staff is.
So if it would, yeah, I'm trying not to prolong this into 6 months, 8 months, a year, but if it would really help the Inclusivity Board more, I will find someone either from North Glen, or I can bring someone from St. Francis Center to explain how they might, how their operation goes, and how they got to this point, which would have been actually a study group, a task force would have looked into it.
Okay, thank you. Piper, and then Mayor Pro Tem, please.
Number one, Michelle, you're a very smart person. That was what I was going to suggest, is getting someone in from North Glen to see what they looked at. My other point, perhaps suggestion, because we have numbers, and this weekend is actually the count, or this week is actually the Jefferson County homeless count. Do they have the information on how to reach people, on what methods they're using? Because, okay, so what I'm hearing is we want to help homeless people. We want to make sure they have the services to survive and thrive in the world we live in. However, they do not wish, for whatever reason, to access these services. Fear, addiction, all of that stuff. Are you proposing we make them? I mean, that has been proposed in other cities and it hasn't gone well. Or are we, because we already have the numbers, we already know it's a problem. What do you think we're missing that you want us to see? Is my question, Alan. What are we missing? Are we missing a connection between how they actually get helped?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, do you know how to make that connection? Do you think, because a conversation with currently unhoused people is a great idea. I like it. I like what they need right now, because that has drastically changed since I was a young person and this was a problem. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out exactly what information you're trying to get to. Are you trying to get to a strategy that will convince the city council that we should spend money on this? Because they are spending money on it, kind of, in that they're actually contributing a big chunk of money to the center in Arvada. I guess there seems to be something missing, and yeah.
We don't know. Piper, we really don't know about, there's been talk in Lakewood and talk of Arvada. I know from what I understood, Arvada City Council did purchase property. I don't know what the status of this is, but that's the whole purpose of having a task force to look into homelessness, to help. We're not going to clean up homelessness for good. There's always going to be people who are homeless, but I keep running into more and more and newer and newer. I'm running into families. So what it is, we could have all the safety nets out there, but they're not all connected. And that's what a task force would do. It would answer those questions that you just so superbly put forward. I can't answer those because I'm not part of a group that's out there knowing how to ask the specific questions. We need to have some people who are professional out there, like somebody, a name that pops up to me is Ian Stitt, who runs a safe outdoor space. It was at Regis for a year, and they had complete wraparound services. And that was something that through the city of Denver determined might work, a safe outdoor space. And some of those include, you could call them igloo tents, and small homes or pallet homes. But they have that. I'm not saying we need to reinvent, but we need to be able to look as a city instead of doing what we have been doing. And I don't think that works. And I'm not seeing it work, especially since for 2.5 years, I'm seeing so many of the same people out there. So it's a way to, if there's some place that they can go, if we have a specific in the city, a specific area, I'm talking about, in the Grandview, a campus, but that's my idea. I can't be a task force of one. That's why we need people coming in and discussing and looking into this. And we find someone who can be a great facilitator.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Alan.
I just, for context, and I don't want to try to weigh, your guys' thoughts, but obviously I've been part of who's been making decisions around this. I would say that when you talk about talking to Northglenn, the first thing that comes to my mind is the fact that Kate and her team have been talking to the region. I mean, that's part of the reason why we have partners in Jeffco. We do have, some unique challenges as far as the fact that we split 2 counties, and the counties are traditionally the ones who provide the resources that, are so desperately needed by the folks who are unhoused. But I know that Kate talks to her partners. I don't know how much she's talked to Northglenn about what they did at their task force, but I have to imagine she has. So that may be a good reference point to at least follow back up with Kate and ask her, what did you hear from Northglenn around what they did in that area? Because I know that she's having those discussions with our regional partners. And the other thing that I just would put up for at least discussion is you gave the last 2-year time frame. The last 2 years have been hard for the entire world. Obviously, a lot of us are a lot more blessed than those folks who end up unhoused. But there's been some unique challenges that have come along with that. And unfortunately, these things don't government's big and slow, and things take time to go into effect. And so, we put extra dollars around more navigators who do, go out and connect people to those resources and know what the resources are that are available to, some of the discussion points that I've heard. So, that doesn't mean that we don't continue to try to do better, but I just want to, make those some points. And I can't remember where we were in the process when Kate came and spoke to the group, as far as adding some additional resources. And I also honestly don't know, and I don't know if Cody does, if those resources are budgeted, but then you have to actually go out and find the people. And, I haven't seen there be a single demographic of work that has not had a hard time getting people to come take jobs. So I don't know if those positions that we've allocated money to have been filled yet either. So I understand how frustrating it is, and I super appreciate Alan's passion around this and for his fellow human beings. But I just want to tool you guys with as much information, because if you're going to go back and ask for anything, it's important to know what we've already done, I think, so that it's not, it doesn't just end up a ping pong ball as far as, nope, we already did that. You know what I mean? Like I'd like there to be some meaningful success if I can help you guys accommodate that.
And can I just add to that? So I think we have filled some co-responders also through some of that funding and some of our park rangers, right? I think we got 2 new park rangers and then also, and I think those positions have all been filled. They were pretty fast hires. You'll receive from me tonight after this call a request for volunteers or a call for volunteers for the night out to count. So point in time. Kate put that together and I said I would talk about it tonight. Part of this conversation, I'll make sure to send that when we hang up here. There are also limitations as to what the city can provide because we're in counties who provide services. They're the human services branches of our government. So being mindful of that. And Mayor Pro Tem has a good point. There's a lot going on and a lot of different pieces. I would say Kate and her team are actively involved with both Adams County and their initiatives and Jefferson County and theirs, and the leader in some of them. I know that there was a grant conversation yesterday and made her late for another meeting we had because they were collaborating on a grant in Jefferson County around some of these issues. So it's a constant moving piece. And Kate really is that subject matter expert. So just going to echo Mayor Pro Tem, if we're going to move this forward, there's a lot of questions that need to be asked about what's already happening so that we're not being redundant or inadvertently coming in conflict with things already underway or pausing them because we're having another conversation.
And the only other thing I'd add just off of those thoughts is when you think about the park rangers and the way we're utilizing those versus the police department, part of that has all been around a multiple different areas of shift. Some of about how we think about and help unhoused individuals. Some of that's around interactions that folks have with law enforcement and when it's appropriate and when it's not. Because even with, specifically with the homeless, there's a line when there's property involved at some point where the police do get involved if people won't vacate and they're trespassing. So it's super complicated, but there's just been so many different shifts in government and society over the last couple of years that we've been dealing with on top of it. And again, I don't mean that to say that it shouldn't have some focus from you all. Just more things for you to think about as you talk about the conversation.
Thank you. Steve, I see your hand.
2 things I'd like to comment on. One, I heard loud and clear from Kate that from her perspective, and she's out there every day working on this issue, what's needed is, if anything, a task force on housing of the homeless. So that's one comment I have. And second, it seems to me we need to circle around to Kate, Alan, and make sure that she sees the need for an additional task force because she's already staffing for the city, the Adams County, and the Jefferson County task force. And since they're responsible for human services in general, they would probably take a lead on any recommendations that came out of our own task force. So that's just my perspective on it. In my understanding, other cities that I've studied, it's typically a county function that houses these task force, manages them, staffs them, takes the recommendations forward, even though it may be not all the municipalities in the county that are impacted by the issue.
And one thing I wanted to mention to Piper, no, it's not about forcing people. Never, 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 never. In this case, the people were forced too many times and from one place to another. But one of the things that you bring up, Steve, yes, indeed, Kate has, she's a wealth of knowledge. I did have a conversation several months ago with Tomas Michler Herrera, with through, I think, is he the head of Parks, Recreation, and Libraries?
Mhm.
And he indicated in our conversation that such a task force, a study group, he was open to it, the idea of it.
Okay, so we have one of two possible options. We make a motion to make the recommendation with the information that we have, and then we have further discussion. My personal thinking, my guidance without a formal recommendation would be that we really have some strong conversation with Kate. We outline exactly what this task force would do, who it would be comprised of, so that when we send it to city council, that we are very clear about what it is that we would want. Because at this point, I could tell you, I get it. I'm looking at your previous, proposal, and I think it's an amazing idea. I just think we would need to really have a clear understanding of how this task force would maybe interact and support the city resources that are already in place. And to what other people have said, um, so I think that would be the other thing we could do is we could make a motion to have a smaller group look at this work and really try to push this forward for the IB as a whole. And things that obviously are such passion projects, but also so important. This is important work, right? We have families and peoples and persons that are suffering. So we absolutely, this is an urgent matter. So we don't want to be sitting, like you said, Alan, in a limbo of no action. I think we do need to have some action. I don't know if we have enough information to be able to make a motion of recommendation beyond just saying we need a task force for persons who are displaced or homeless. Um, I think that would merit a little bit more discussion than we possibly have time for this evening.
All right, then if you're all amenable, I may want to have this conversation again with the mayor pro tem at maybe next Tuesday over a beer or two, or at least one for me. And if it's okay, I'm going to contact Kate anyway. I will get a little bit more information from her with her contacts, and perhaps and I'm hoping at the next meeting, then I can, you'll allow me to revisit this. I'm still pursuing this. It's just a good thing I think is needed, because so many people in the city complain about the homeless, and so the city has to react to its other residents. And I think that's one way to establish what the issue is. So I'm not going to, I don't want to belabor this, because I am belaboring this. So let me go ahead and get some more additional information. And at the next meeting, bring this up again. Yes?
Yeah, I think that would be great. And the other thing I would also echo would be, to Michelle's point, if there is someone who is on the North Glen task force that we could connect with, that maybe could give us a little more insight into how they structure, what their work is, versus what, maybe other entities or city personnel do. Are they a voluntary group? What does that look like? Do they have a budget? Those types of things. I would feel that those would be points of information that I would definitely be interested in, so that we could, come up, if we're going to move this way, with a really dynamic and very explicit proposal for what we would like to do. So I see Steve's hand, and then Cody, please. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Maybe also in that conversation with Alan, maybe that you have with Kate, maybe a question might be that would help frame this in a way that we can make sure that it has more success rate is, Kate, if we were to form a task force, what would be most helpful to your work in with that task force? What would you want them to explore or and investigate, learn more about, that would benefit and help your work in this particular area in our city? because she might be able to tell you right off the bat, well, we need more, I don't know, we could have volunteer navigators. I'm just throwing things out there. I don't think that that's possible. I think you have to go through a whole thing, but maybe there's some actual tangible things that Kate legitimately needs help with, and that would increase our success rate in making such a request. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks, Cody. Steve, and then Donna, and then we'll move on.
I think my hand was raised up from before.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Steve. Donna.
Yes, Cody, you make a very, very good point. I'm going to now move over and talk directly to Mayor Pro Tem DeMott to ask, has there been discussion in study meetings with the council, Dave, or council? Where are they, council members? Have they discussed anything about wanting to do something here and looking into what board or what group might be helpful, so that there's, that a request could come from them to do that sort of thing? They're certainly not obviously totally oblivious to what's going on, but I'm surprised there hasn't come from the council itself some concerns and some questions.
There's actually been a substantial amount of conversation and action around it. And I know, not everybody necessarily agrees with where we're at with it, but we have what we've been calling the continuum of care, and that's been pushed by the majority, and that's work that's been done by staff in reaction to what council's asked for, which has been in part in reaction to concerns from the community. But we certainly have tried our best, and I feel confident about all 6 of my colleagues that we all want to address the situation as humanely as possible. But it's complicated and it's multifaceted. There's housing, there's you've heard a lot of the things, drug use, mental health. Those are certainly things that unfortunately I am familiar with personally with family members. So I get it. But at the same time, we have to, maintain safety and people's property rights as well. So it's complex, but there are some pretty lengthy meetings. I'd have to go back and find which ones. But those are all on the city YouTube. I would encourage, maybe we'll see if we can't figure out which meetings they were. If I can, maybe I can share that back with you. But it would probably be worth going to listen to those meetings. I know that Alan, certainly anytime homelessness is on the agenda, I know that he is there. He's usually there anyway, but he's heard a lot of those conversations. But a lot of different work has went into this from both the staff and council side, and will continue to, because it's an ever-changing situation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for this great conversation. Alan, I know I echo a lot of sentiment here in saying thank you for your continued work in this area and for your advocacy. And we'll see if we can get a little bit more information so we can move forward in a way that I think feels good and that we can maybe come to a win-win too. So thank you. Moving into subcommittee reports, I'd like to kind of pop down to Miguel. I know Miguel has had a meeting basically during this time. It's been the advisory committee for the community advisory group for the police force. So Miguel, do you have any updates or anything you'd like to share beyond what Mayor Pro Tem has already shared about the position of the chief of police?
Yeah, I think appreciate Mayor Pro Tem for the update. I mean, he's has the latest, greatest information, being on the pulse a bit more than me. But our last meeting was really good. We had an opportunity to meet the new city manager. So Mark came by and told us his backstory and kind of what, a little bit more about him, and then kind of a bit more about the recruitment process for the chief and some input there. And kind of what he's looking for at a high level, and also just what he expects out of that position. And so I think it was just a good, candid conversation. I do want to follow up and probably have a meeting with him. So I reached out via email, and then yeah, I just think it'll be a series of you know, narrowing down that list of 30, and there might be the potential that that panel gets a little bit involved with some feedback for some of the candidates as it narrows down. I don't know, but it was just a good opportunity to kind of hear, you know, where the city managers sort of ideas were around that position, and getting that filled soon.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for that work as well. We've missed you, but it's good work that you're on there. So, okay.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. We appreciate your just being there and giving us the updates. Is there anything else for our group that we should discuss as far as committee needs or what's happening in the community? We do have one item, the participation in the historic Westminster Around the World Street Fair. Cody, I think you were going to bring that up, right?
Oh, Alan was, but I'm going to jump ahead. I'm going to jump the line. Also tonight, you're going to get a lot of emails from me while we're sitting there and pulling the recordings for the I think 3 or 4 homeless presentations that the city councils had in 2022. So you'll get that. You also get an invitation to join Kate and team in the point in time survey. And also the Human Library is looking for volunteers again this year. That's something some of our board members have participated in before. They need about 10. So you'll get another email. Please work with Lou Wright with Front Range Community College and the Westminster Public Libraries to participate in that. Alan, if you want to jump in about, I think you said, could the city do something about international, like an international cultural event? And we did have one in August of 2022. It was called Around the World Street Fair. Rich Newman and team put that together in Historic Westminster. So if that's covering it, maybe it's how can we help them be successful next year or something of that nature. But just wanted to make sure that we get that chance too.
Yeah, you know, can you see the egg on my face on this one? Because I must have, for some reason, I think I missed that one last August. It just doesn't ring a bell. I've gone to so many of the events. I just didn't think we had an international. And I'll tell you what spurred this for me was one of the city council meetings when they made the council made a presentation or awarded the youth group, and I noticed so many of the kids that I'm thinking a good portion were of the Sikh or other pronunciations Sikh community, which I had no idea was even in Westminster. In the north, I don't travel north in the city. So that's one of the things that spurred me to this. But if we already have something, we just want to expand it. I'm done.
Thank you. And I think it would be a great opportunity because, it's always about, and I think we've said this, and Alan, I know you've invited us via email, getting ourselves out there as well and trying to make sure that we're supporting and we're actually sponsoring events, and being a presence. So I absolutely appreciate that conversation. And I think we could start talking. At one point, we were asked by Rich Newman to maybe think about the different types of entertainment and how it could reflect more of the diversity of the city of Westminster. To your point, there's a lot of diversity, a lot of different backgrounds and cultures and values here that we definitely want to celebrate. So, and acknowledge. But yeah, I think that's a great opening for a conversation. So yeah, thank you for that. All right. Anything else for community or updates in general? Okay, friends. Well, I am going to ask my friends for the bylaws and our policy friends. That would be, I think, Doug, Steve, and Rich and Donna to maybe hang out for a couple of minutes so that we can get some scheduled time together. Otherwise, we will formally adjourn this meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, Alan, you have no, please, Alan, go ahead.
I just quickly, I wanted to know, was Piper able to bring up her presentation?
No, we weren't able to get
I
that.
wasn't.
Yeah. But Piper and I will work in the next few days, and we'll try to figure out an alternative delivery system. So,
Justin, I was just going to suggest that. Boy, with all the technology we have, we got to have a someplace to store documents that's common to all of us. So I would recommend established.
Yeah, no, and Anthony, thank you for coming. We really appreciate your presence here as well, and any guests that maybe we did not get a chance to greet. You're always welcome to come hang out with us, and look forward to hearing from you as well. So as of 7:31, we will officially adjourn our regular business, and we will see you all in February for our subcommittee that I've already indicated. Please hang out for a few minutes, and we will work to get some time scheduled for our policy and bylaw update. Thank you all.
Jake, I think you can stop the recording because we're just gonna coordinate schedules. And if you want to go ahead and depart for the evening, you're welcome to.